Hello everyone, my name is J.E. Marie and welcome to SOL, also known as Student of Life, also known as Student of Life. So today we are going into our bootcamp series and we're going to be talking about learning on your own or learning to code on your own versus learning in a bootcamp. Now, when we go into these two things, the two most important components are structure and time consumption. Now, they are vastly different in how they appear in learning on your own versus learning in a bootcamp, and we will get into both of those. So let's get started. In terms of learning on your own, the structure is very self-structured. So I could say it's virtually non-existent. So if you were somebody who knows nothing about code and you decide, hey, I want to be a software developer, it could take you anywhere from 3 to 6 months to 3 to 6 years. Speaking from personal experience. And this is because you don't know what you don't know. And in that case, a good portion of what you're doing is throwing things at a wall just to see what sticks. And that just is not very effective in most cases. And that actually leads us into time consumption. In terms of time consumption, because you don't know what you don't know, it's hard to know where to start. So someone who just decides they want to do it and they just start researching, it's very possible that they spend so much more time refining their learning plan than they actually do learning or they do actually applying for a job. So you can find yourself stumbling through concepts which can take longer than having a more firm roadmap is really what I'm trying to say. So in terms of structure, because there's a lack of structure, the time consumption could be longer overall. Could be. But then let's talk about boot camps. In terms of learning in a boot camp, the structure in and of itself is that you have a set curriculum. And having a set curriculum helps to give an idea of where you want your understanding to be and where you want your skill level to be at with any of these things. And so that is so important. It is so important when you are learning, simply because you need a measure, a way to measure yourself. And that is something that a bootcamp definitely provides. Also, instructors. It is invaluable to have someone more experienced in something, especially when you are still at the early stages of learning. To have someone to ask for help, to have someone as a guide, or really just to have somebody there is a lot more helpful. And if you are one of those people that really just doesn't like to do things alone, or when you're starting something new and you don't know where to search, I definitely feel like having an instructor would be the best thing for you, especially if you're not used to learning on your own. And that could be with anything. Now, another reason that the structure of a bootcamp is so solid is because you not only have instructors and TAs, you also have people who help you find a job. You have people there for mental health. Certain bootcamps. Not all bootcamps help you find a job, and not all bootcamps actually supply other resources. So that is something to take into account. However, some do. And it's very, very, very helpful. I can say for me personally, I did benefit from having definitely benefited from having instructors or classmates. And the thing about a classmate is that you have someone else going through something so intensely with you. There's such a strong camaraderie. Again, usually there could be such a strong camaraderie there that it's just useful and helpful to have someone to bounce ideas off of, one, and two, it's easier. It does make things a little bit easier to know that you're not alone. So there's that. In terms of the structure of a boot camp, you actually feel supported. Now, in terms of time consumption, it is definitely a little different than learning on your own. And this is because the curriculums can be so rigorous that you can expect to spend an intense amount of time during the boot camp. So what I'm trying to say is, even though, let's say this person, it took them 3 years from start to finish to learn and find a job, it could take someone who went through a boot camp a year to do that same thing, even if they were in the boot camp for 6 months. However, throughout that first half of the year where they're dedicating everything to this boot camp, that it can be so difficult just to have a normal life. And some boot camps will try to accommodate for life circumstances that happen. Like you can't help it if you get a divorce or your family member dies. Like this is really strenuous. And if you're already spending 70 hours a week trying to study to become a software developer, you don't have time for anything else to happen in your life. So there are boot camps that try to accommodate for this. However, it's not a guarantee, A. And B, that is where most of your time consumption is spent. Definitely. Pause. I don't want to pull that out of thin air because I don't know that for a fact, but I do know for myself, a lot of my time is spent studying more than, anything else. Anywho, not to say that there are not part-time programs. A lot of boot camps do have part-time programs, so you could ease it up a little bit and make it easier for you to actually try to work and take care of your family or whatever it is that you have going on in your personal life and still attend the boot camp successfully. So there are accommodations. Don't let me say that they're not. However, the time consumption, I feel like one could expect that they reallocate a lot of their time specifically for this, a good portion of time. So yeah, that is a difference in terms of time consumption and structure when it comes to learning on your own versus learning in a boot camp. Now, why would you choose either or? Let's get into that. So, why would someone choose to learn on your own when you could have all the structure of learning with the boot camp? Well, if you are in a life position where there are other time-consuming life commitments. Let's say you just had a baby. Whatever your life commitment is, some people just don't have time to dedicate 20, 40, 70 hours to studying a week. Some of us just don't have that. And so that's why a lot of people who might opt for learning on their own or finding an online bootcamp program that allows them to go at their own pace. Second reason, some boot camps cost a good amount of money that a lot of people just don't have on hand. They don't have it to shell out because of this new endeavor, which is actually a reason why a lot of people say they don't become entrepreneurs, because they don't have the time or the money to start a creative project. So that's a whole nother thing for another day. But for now, that is what I have found when I've asked people why they decided to learn on their own versus joining a boot camp. Now, why would you choose to join a boot camp in the first place? Because it's so much money. Why? Well, like we said before, the set curriculum, the assistance, and the support that you receive, again, in my opinion, feel is completely invaluable. It is so necessary for me that I realized it's so necessary in terms of moving forward with something new for me. There's something new like this, I would have to say, like this, because I did teach myself to do a good amount of things, which is why I thought I could teach myself to code. I joined a boot camp, and we'll talk about that another day. But yeah, that is why a lot of people choose it, and personally why I chose it. Also, some boot camps offer job placement assistance. Isn't that why we're all here trying to learn to become software developers? Because we want to get a job. We want to get a job. So the idea that you're spending all this money and you might get a job is really scary. So the fact that they offer this placement assistance is chef's kiss. Thank you. I don't think I'm doing it. Someone teach me how to do that. I don't do it right. Anywho, that is why a lot of people do choose to do the bootcamp as well. And also, we did talk about how a lot of boot camps are very expensive. I do want to say that there are boot camps that do have alternative payment options. That is, it's not all or nothing. You don't have to shell out a bunch of money and a bunch of time and say, hey, cool, I'm going to sign my life over and just do that. No, you don't have to. In the case that there is an extenuating life circumstance, sometimes they do offer things like deferrals, where basically you do get a break, but that is per boot camp. And in terms of alternative payment options, there are other options in terms of like installments or down payments. There are options for you if you do decide that you want to go to a boot camp, but you feel like it's too much time or too much money. There are options. Now, what is the takeaway of this? Why would I want to do either one? I want to be a software developer, but this seems like too much work. Well, the thing to take into account is that both require immense amount of time and discipline. Yet only you can decide what's best for you. Only you can decide. Just keep in mind how much time it would take you either immediately or overall, and how much money you would be devoting to this. Because that could be the bootcamp itself, it could be you deciding not to work so you could focus on the bootcamp, however that plays out for you. But just keep in mind, you are the only one who could decide what's best for you. Now, thank you for listening to this, and I pray that it helps you. And yeah, thank you. Thank you for listening to us here on SOL. I pray that all of this helps you, and I hope to see you again.